My name is Claire Whitmore. I'm 35 years old. And for 7 years, I believed loyalty meant standing beside someone, even when the ground beneath you started cracking. Then one Tuesday morning in March, I learned something colder. Some people only believe in loyalty when they are the ones being protected by it. Daniel left while I was making coffee. That is the detail I remember most clearly. Not the suitcases. Not the words. Not even the woman waiting outside in her car. I remember the smell of dark roast filling the kitchen, the soft click of the coffee maker, and the sound of drawers opening upstairs like someone was quietly dismantling my life piece by piece. At first, I thought he was looking for a shirt. Then I heard hanger scraping against the closet rod. Then the wheels of a suitcase bumped against the hallway floor. I stood in the kitchen with my hand wrapped around a mug, listening as the man I had loved for 7 years packed himself out of our relationship. When Daniel came down the stairs, he had 2 suitcases, his laptop bag, and a face so carefully blank, it looked rehearsed. "I'm leaving," he said. I turned away from the coffee maker. "Where are you going?" He didn't look at me right away. His eyes moved past me, toward the window, above the sink. "Does it matter?" A laugh almost came out of me, but it caught somewhere in my chest, kind of. "You're my boyfriend. We live together. I can't do this anymore." "Claire." "Do what?" "This." He gestured around the kitchen, as if our home was a cage. "The routine? The same conversations. The same life. I need more. I need to feel alive." I set the mug down slowly. "What does that mean?" His jaw tightened. "It means I've been unhappy for a long time." The sentence landed softly, but it cut deep. "For how long?" He inhaled, already tired of the conversation he had started. "I met someone." The kitchen seemed to narrow around me. "A woman?" "Yes." "Who?" "Someone from work." "Vanessa." "You don't know her." "Vanessa." The name sounded polished. Expensive. Like perfume sprayed over something rotting. "How long?" "Claire." "How long?" "Daniel." He looked at the floor. 4 months. 4 months. A third of a year. 4 months while I cooked dinner beside him. 4 months while he kissed my forehead before bed. 4 months while I was planning a weekend trip for our anniversary, wondering whether he would like the cabin near Lake Tahoe or the coastal place with the fireplace. 4 months while he let me live inside a lie and called it normal. "So you're leaving right now?" I asked. "Yes." "With her?" His silence answered before his mouth did. "I'm going to stay at her apartment for a while." "For a while?" I repeated. "I need space." Space is when someone sleeps in the guest room. Space is when someone takes a weekend alone. Moving in with another woman is not space. "I'm not doing this," he said. "Doing what?" "Fighting." "I'm not fighting. I'm asking questions because apparently my life just changed while I was making coffee." His eyes flashed then, irritated, like my calmness was inconveniencing him. "I have to go. She's waiting." "Isn't she?" He didn't answer fast enough. I walked to the front window. There was a silver sedan parked at the curb. Engine running. Tinted windows. Clean. Sharp. Unfamiliar. I couldn't see Vanessa's face, but I could feel her presence like a hand pressing against the glass. "She's outside," I said. I needed a ride. "You have a car." I wanted support. "Support." I turned back to him. "You brought the woman you cheated with to our house so she could support you while you walked out on me. Don't make it ugly." That was the first moment I understood how far gone he was. Not because he had cheated. Not because he was leaving. But because he wanted me to help him keep the scene pretty. He wanted betrayal without consequence. I looked at the suitcases by his feet. "Do what you need to do." He blinked, like he had expected shouting. Tears. Maybe begging. Maybe me blocking the door, asking what she had that I didn't. I gave him none of it. He picked up his bags. At the door, he paused and looked back. "I'm sorry. I know this is hard, but I have to do this for me." I nodded once. "Then do it." He left. I watched through the window as he rolled the suitcases to Vanessa's car. The trunk opened. One suitcase went in, then the other. He got into the passenger seat, like he had been practicing that too. The car pulled away. 7 years ended, in the time it took for coffee to cool. I didn't run after him. I didn't scream his name. I didn't collapse on the porch. I stood in the kitchen until the house became too quiet. Then I poured the coffee down the sink. That afternoon, I called my older sister. Marissa, she answered on the second ring. Hey. Aren't you supposed to be at work? Danya left. There was a pause. What do you mean left? I mean, he packed 2 suitcases while I made coffee, and got into his coworker's car. Another pause. Longer this time. He cheated. 4 months. Oh my God. Claire. She was waiting outside. Marissa cursed under her breath. And you let him go. What was I supposed to do? Lock the door? Throw myself in front of the car? No. But he made his choice. Her voice softened. What are you going to do? I looked at the empty space, near the door, where his shoes used to be. Lawyer. Separate everything. Move on. That fast. He moved fast. I'm just keeping up. By Friday. I had hired an attorney. Her name was Patricia Lowell. And she had the calm, surgical voice of a woman who had watched hundreds of people confuse heartbreak with strategy. Do you share property? She asked. The house is in my name. I bought it before Daniel moved in. Joint accounts. 1 shared household account. Separate savings. Separate retirement. Good. Good. It was strange hearing that word attached to the wreckage of my relationship. We filed the necessary paperwork to separate finances. Remove his access from shared accounts. Document his voluntary departure. And protect the house. It was not a marriage, on paper. But 7 years of shared life could still leave legal knots, if one person decided to pull hard enough. Daniel called 3 days after he left. I almost didn't answer. Then I did. Hello. Hey. He said quietly. How are you? I stared at the wall, where a framed photo of us still hung from a trip to Portland. How do you think I am? I know this is hard. Do you? I just wanted to check in. Check in? Like I'm a project you abandoned but still want updates on. Don't be like that. How should I be? Daniel warm, grateful. You left me for another woman. Silence. Then he said, I'm staying with Vanessa. Her apartment is nice. I closed my eyes. Good for you. We should talk about the house. And the furniture. And some of the accounts. My lawyer will send you documents. You can review them with your lawyer. You already hired a lawyer. Of course I did. That feels extreme. You moved in with another woman before breakfast. Let's not discuss extreme. This doesn't have to be hostile. I laughed once. Quietly. You walked out of our life, with your affair partner, idling outside. It was hostile before I picked up the phone. He hung up. I didn't call back. That night, I walked through the house with a cardboard box and removed every photo of him. Daniel at the beach. Daniel in a Christmas sweater. Daniel asleep on the couch, with our old dog curled against his leg. Daniel smiling at me from a life I now understood had been edited without my permission. Each frame made a small, empty rectangle on the wall. By midnight, the house looked less like a home, and more like a place waiting to decide what it wanted to become. I packed his remaining things into boxes. Books. Chargers. Jackets. Old birthday cards. A watch I had given him when he turned 32. A framed photo of us at my company holiday party. I put everything in the garage. The next morning, sunlight came through the kitchen window and landed on the place where he had stood with his suitcases. For a second, I saw him there again. Then the light shifted. And he was gone. 2 months passed. That sounds simple when you say it quickly. 2 months. 8 weeks. 61 days of waking up in a house that suddenly felt larger than it used to. At first, every room carried Daniel's ghost. I would reach for a second coffee mug before remembering there was no one else to pour for. I would hear a car pull into the driveway and instinctively glance toward the window. I would catch myself saving stories to tell him before realizing there was no him anymore. But grief is strange. It doesn't disappear all at once. It loosens its grip 1 finger at a time. By May, I was sleeping through the night again. I had started going to the gym with Marissa 3 mornings a week. I repainted the guest room. I bought a new dining table. Little changes. Small declarations that my life belonged to me. The legal process, however, refused to be small. Daniel suddenly wanted portions of things he had never cared about before. My attorney called one afternoon. He wants compensation for improvements made to the property. I nearly laughed. The improvements. His lawyer claims he contributed significantly to the home's value. He assembled a bookshelf from IKEA. Patricia was silent for a moment. That's approximately what I expected. For weeks. Paperwork flew back and forth. Receipts. Statements. Arguments disguised as legal language. Daniel claimed fairness. I called it opportunism. The most frustrating part wasn't the money. It was realizing that the same man who once insisted we were partners now viewed our entire relationship like a business negotiation. Every conversation seemed to carry the same hidden message. If I can't have you, maybe I can still take something. Then, one Thursday afternoon, my phone buzzed. A text message. Daniel, can I come by and get the rest of my things? I stared at the screen. There was no anger anymore. Not the sharp kind. Just exhaustion. When? Saturday. 2 o'clock. Fine. I'll be home. His reply came almost immediately. Thank you. I didn't answer. Saturday arrived with gray skies and steady wind. At exactly 2 o'clock, a familiar SUV pulled into my driveway. For a second, I expected to see Vanessa step out first. She didn't. Daniel was alone, and he looked different. The transformation shocked me more than I expected. He had lost weight. The confident posture he carried when he left was gone. His shoulders seemed lower, somehow. His face looked tired. Not physically tired, emotionally tired. Like someone who had spent months fighting battles he hadn't expected. He stepped out of the vehicle and looked toward the house. For a brief moment, our eyes met through the window. Something unreadable passed across his face. Regret. Maybe, or maybe he simply didn't like what his choices had cost him. I opened the front door before he could knock. Hi. Hey. An awkward silence followed. I put everything in the garage. Okay. Neither of us moved immediately. The wind pushed dead leaves across the driveway. Finally, he asked quietly, "Can I come inside for a minute?" I hesitated. Every instinct told me no, but curiosity won. 5 minutes. He nodded. 5 minutes. We walked into the kitchen. The same kitchen where he had ended 7 years over coffee. His eyes immediately started scanning the room. The walls, the furniture, the details, looking for traces of himself, finding very few. You change things. Some. The table is new. Yes. He nodded slowly. Then he noticed the missing photographs. Every single one. Gone. A strange sadness crossed his face. You took everything down. I leaned against the counter. You're not here anymore. He looked away. That seemed to hurt. Good. Maybe it should. Daniel sat at the kitchen table. I remained standing. A deliberate choice. This wasn't a reunion. It wasn't nostalgia. It was a business meeting with history attached. How have you been? He asked. Fine. Really. Really. He studied me. I could practically see him searching for damage. Searching for evidence that leaving had destroyed me. Maybe because that would make him feel more important. Maybe because people who leave often want proof they mattered. What he found instead was someone calmer than before. That seemed to bother him. After a long silence, he spoke. I've been thinking a lot. Dangerous hobby. A weak smile appeared. Then disappeared. I made a mistake. There it was. The sentence. The one I had suspected was coming. The one people always imagine will feel satisfying. Surprisingly, it didn't. Mostly, it felt predictable. Which part? I asked. His brow furrowed. What? The cheating. The lying. Moving in with Vanessa. Leaving while I was making coffee. You'll need to be more specific. The smile vanished completely. All of it. I folded my arms. Okay. He looked surprised by my lack of reaction. I was confused. Were you? Yes. You seemed pretty confident. I thought I wanted something different. And now, his gaze dropped to the table. Now, I know I was wrong. The words lingered in the room. For months I had imagined hearing them. Now that they existed, they felt smaller than expected. What changed? I asked. His answer came slowly. Vanessa isn't who I thought she was. Of course. Not I hurt you. Not I betrayed you. Not I destroyed us. Vanessa wasn't who we thought she was. The problem had a name. And conveniently, it wasn't Daniel. I almost laughed. What happened? She's controlling. I raised an eyebrow. Controlling. She gets angry if I spend time with friends. He swallowed. If I don't answer immediately, she assumes I'm hiding something. The irony nearly knocked me over. The man who hid an affair for 4 months was complaining about trust issues. Anything else? A lot. His voice lowered. She goes through my phone. I stared at him. He looked genuinely miserable. Part of me almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Then I remembered the silver sedan, the suitcases, the lies, the months of deception. Compassion has limits. So, I said carefully, the relationship built on cheating turned out to have trust issues. His jaw tightened. You don't have to be cruel. I'm not being cruel. I met his eyes. I'm being accurate. Silence. Then he whispered, I miss you. There it was. The real reason for this visit. Not the boxes. Not the belongings. Not the furniture. This? I miss you. The sentence floated between us. I considered it carefully. Then shook my head. No. His expression cracked. What do you mean, no? You don't miss me. His eyes narrowed. That's not true. It is. I stepped closer. You miss stability. He looked away. You miss predictability. Nothing. You miss someone who believed in you. Still, nothing. You miss feeling safe. His silence confirmed every word. I nodded. That's not the same thing as missing me. Claire, no. For the first time, my voice sharpened. You left because excitement felt more valuable than loyalty. His shoulders stiffened. You don't get to rewrite that now. I wasn't thinking clearly. You were thinking clearly enough to pack? He flinched. You were thinking clearly enough to move in with her. Another flinch. You were thinking clearly enough to watch me stand in that kitchen and tell me you needed to feel alive. The room became very quiet. Outside, wind rattled a branch against the side of the house. Daniel's eyes glistened. I still love you. I looked at him for a long moment. Once upon a time, hearing those words would have meant everything. Now they sounded like someone reading lines from a script they should have memorized months earlier. No, I said softly. His face fell. You love what I represented. What does that mean? It means you loved having someone who stayed. Tears appeared in his eyes. I felt nothing but sadness. Not for the relationship, for the wasted years, for the version of him I thought existed, for the woman I used to be, the one who would have fought for someone who had already left. Finally he whispered, Can we try again? I laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was unbelievable. The sound echoed through the kitchen. His face turned pale. You're serious? Very. Claire. Please. I shook my head. No. Please just think about it. I have. For months. I pointed toward the garage. The answer is still no. His tears finally fell. I watched quietly. Not cold. Not angry. Just finished. Completely finished. I lost the best thing that ever happened to me. I considered that statement, then answered honestly, yes. The truth hit harder than any insult could have. He lowered his head. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then I walked toward the garage. Conversation. Over. Passed over. Fantasy over. The boxes were stacked neatly near the wall. I picked up the first one. Daniel silently grabbed another. 3 trips. That was all it took to remove the last physical traces of 7 years. 3 trips. When we finished loading the SUV, he stood beside the open trunk. The wind blew through the driveway. Neither of us moved. Finally, he asked quietly, What about the photo albums? First box. His eyes closed briefly. Then he nodded. I shut the trunk. The sound felt final, like a judge's gavel, like a door locking, like a chapter ending. Take care of yourself. Daniel. He stared at me. Maybe hoping I'd change my mind. Maybe hoping I'd run into his arms. Maybe hoping for one last miracle. Instead, I stepped back. Goodbye. For several seconds, he didn't move. Then he climbed into the driver's seat. The engine started. The vehicle remained parked. 1 minute. 2 minutes. 5. I watched from the front window as he sat there alone. Finally, he wiped his eyes, put the SUV in reverse, and drove away. This time, I didn't watch until he disappeared. I turned away before he reached the end of the street, because unlike the first time he left, I no longer cared whether he came back. Summer slowly gave way to fall. The legal battle finally ended in September, after months of paperwork, negotiations, and endless arguments disguised as legal procedure. Everything was finalized. Clean. Official. Finished. Daniel received a portion of shared savings. I kept the house. The rest was divided and documented. 7 years reduced to signatures and stamped documents. The day Patricia called to tell me everything was complete. I expected to feel something dramatic. Relief. Victory. Closure. Instead, I felt surprisingly calm. Like a weight I had been carrying for so long that I no longer noticed it until someone removed it. That evening, I opened a bottle of wine and sat alone on my back patio. For the first time in months, my future felt bigger than my past. And that terrified me. Because healing sounds beautiful when people talk about it. In reality, healing means facing empty space and deciding what to build there. Around that time, I started seeing someone casually. His name was Ethan Brooks. We met through a mutual colleague during a charity fundraiser in August. Nothing happened immediately. No sparks, no dramatic movie moment, no instant chemistry, just conversation. Then another conversation, then coffee, then dinner, then several weeks of discovering how peaceful it felt to be around someone who said exactly what he meant. It wasn't serious yet. At least that was what I kept telling myself. After what happened with Daniel, I wasn't interested in rushing anything. Trust had to be earned, one day at a time. Meanwhile, rumors about Daniel and Vanessa occasionally reached me through mutual friends. I never asked. People volunteered information anyway. Apparently they fought constantly. Public arguments, jealousy, breakups, followed by reconciliations, friends being cut off, phones being checked, accusation, apologies, then more accusations. The same cycle repeating over and over. Marissa summarized it perfectly one evening. They're addicted to chaos. I nodded. Probably. You know what's funny? What? She pointed at me. You look healthier now than you did during the last year of that relationship. That caught me off guard. I thought about it. The constant tension, the subtle distance, the feeling that something was wrong, long before I knew what it was. Maybe she was right. Maybe part of me had been carrying the relationship alone for longer than I realized. October arrived. The nights became colder. The trees began shedding their leaves. And then, one Thursday night, my phone rang just before midnight. Unknown number. I stared at the screen. Almost ignored it. Something made me answer. Hello. For a moment, there was only breathing. Then crying. My stomach tightened immediately. Claire. Daniel. His voice sounded broken. Not sad. Not guilty. Scared. Daniel. I need help. I sat upright on the couch. The fear in his voice was real. What happened? Can I come over? The words came out in a rush. Please. My eyes moved toward the clock. 11:47 p.m. What's going on? We had a fight. His voice cracked. A bad one. I closed my eyes. Part of me already knew where this conversation was heading. Where are you? In my car. What happened? A shaky breath. Vanessa found old messages. What messages? Messages from months ago. Before everything was finalized? I frowned. We barely spoke. I know. His voice broke again, but she thought it meant something. The silence stretched. Then he whispered. She went crazy. A cold feeling settled in my chest. What do you mean? She started screaming. His breathing became uneven. She grabbed my phone and threw it at the wall. I heard him swallow. She smashed dishes. Another pause. Then, she said if I ever left her, she'd make sure I regretted it. The fear in his voice was unmistakable now. I stood and walked toward the window. The street outside was empty, dark, quiet. Did she hurt you? A long silence. Danielle. She grabbed my arm. My jaw tightened. Are you injured? I don't know. His voice sounded small, embarrassed, like he hated admitting any of this. Finally he whispered. I got scared. The words hit me harder than expected, because, for the first time, since he left, I wasn't talking to the man who thought he had found something better. I was talking to someone who had realized too late what danger looked like. Call the police. I can't. Why not? More silence. Then, the truth. Because everyone warned me. I leaned against the wall. Daniel continued speaking. My parents warned me. Silence. My friends warned me. Another pause. Then, you warned me, without even saying the words. I closed my eyes. Danielle. No. His voice cracked. You didn't fight when I left. I frowned. What does that have to do with anything? Because I think part of you knew. A painful laugh escaped him. You looked at me that morning like you could already see the crash coming. I didn't answer, because maybe there was some truth in that. Not certainty, but instinct. The feeling that people who help someone cheat rarely become trustworthy partners afterward. Please, he whispered. Can I come over? Every logical reason said no. He wasn't my responsibility. He wasn't my boyfriend. He wasn't even my friend anymore. But despite everything, I couldn't leave someone frightened and alone in the middle of the night. Especially not someone dealing with a potentially abusive situation. Fine. His breathing stopped. What? You can come here. Relief flooded his voice. Thank you. But listen carefully. The firmness in my tone returned immediately. This is one night. Okay. One. I understand. This doesn't change anything. Silence. Then? I know. I wasn't convinced he did. 25 minutes later. Headlights appeared in my driveway. When I opened the door, I barely recognized him. The confident man who left with suitcases months ago was gone. Daniel looked exhausted. His eyes were bloodshot. His clothes were wrinkled. And there was a dark bruise forming along his forearm. My stomach twisted. Come in. He stepped inside. The familiar scent of the house seemed to hit him immediately. I saw it happen. The recognition. The memory. The realization of everything he had thrown away. I handed him a blanket. Sit. He lowered himself onto the couch. The same couch we had once picked out together. The same couch where we'd spent movie nights, and holidays, and lazy Sunday afternoons. Now it felt like furniture belonging to strangers. I sat in a chair across from him. A deliberate distance. What exactly happened tonight? He stared at the floor. Then, everything came out. The accusations. The screaming. The broken phone. The threats. The jealousy. The monitoring. The emotional manipulation. Months of escalating behavior that he had ignored, because he desperately wanted to believe he had made the right choice. Listening to him felt surreal. Like watching someone finally arrive at a destination you had seen from miles away. When he finished, neither of us spoke for a while. Finally, I said, "You need to document everything." He nodded. "I know. You need photographs." Another nod. "And you need to seriously consider filing a report." His shoulders sagged. "I know." I watched him carefully, then asked the question that had been sitting in the back of my mind. "Why didn't you leave sooner?" The answer came almost immediately. Because then I'd have to admit I destroyed my life for nothing. The honesty stunned me. Daniel laughed bitterly. "There it is." "What?" "The truth?" His eyes filled with tears. I kept telling myself things would improve because the alternative meant accepting that I threw away 7 years for a fantasy. The room became very quiet. Outside. Wind brushed against the trees. Inside. Reality settled between us. Not anger. Not blame. Reality. Eventually, he looked up. "Are you happy?" The question caught me off guard. I considered it honestly, then nodded. "Yes." His face tightened. "Really? Really?" I smiled faintly. The first month was terrible. He listened carefully. But after that, I searched for the right words. I realized how much lighter I felt. Confusion crossed his face. Lighter. There was more stress in our relationship than I admitted to myself. The truth surprised even me. But once spoken, it felt undeniable. I kept trying to fix things that weren't mine to fix. Daniel lowered his eyes. Shame flashed across his face. I wasn't a very good boyfriend. No. The honesty hung in the room. Then, I softened slightly. But neither of us were perfect. He nodded slowly. A tear rolled down his cheek. For the first time, I didn't feel anger toward him, only distance. The kind created when enough time passes, and two people become strangers, carrying the same memories. Around 2 a.m, I showed him the guest room. He stopped in the doorway. "Thank you." I folded my arms. "Don't misunderstand this." Pain flickered across his face. "I know. This isn't reconciliation." His eyes lowered. "I know. This is basic human decency." After a long silence, he nodded, then quietly closed the door. I stood alone in the hallway, listening to the house settle around me. Months ago, I would have done anything to get him back. Now he was 20 feet away, sleeping under my roof, and I had never felt further from him. Daniel left the next morning. Not because I asked him to, because there was nothing left to say. We had breakfast in near silence. Coffee, toast, a few polite questions. The kind strangers exchange while waiting for an elevator. Then, he picked up his overnight bag and stood near the front door. For a moment, he looked like he wanted to say something important. Something dramatic. Something that might somehow change everything. Instead, he simply nodded. Thank you for last night. You're welcome. His eyes lingered on me. I mean it. I know. Another pause. Then he left. The door closed, and with it, another chapter of our history. I didn't hear from him for weeks after that. Then months. Life continued. November became December. December became January. The holidays came and went. For the first time in years, I wasn't planning my schedule around someone else's moods. I spent Christmas with Marissa and her family. I laughed more than I had in a long time. And Ethan became something more than casual. What started as dinners and weekend walks slowly turned into consistency, reliability, trust. The things I once thought were boring suddenly felt priceless. Ethan never played games, never disappeared emotionally, never made me guess where I stood. If he cared, he showed it. If he had a problem, he talked about it. Simple, healthy, adult. It was amazing how attractive honesty became after surviving deception. By February, he was spending most nights at my house. Not because either of us rushed things, because being together felt easy, naturel, peaceful. One evening, we were making dinner together when he glanced over and smiled. You know what I like about us? What? I never feel like I'm competing with anyone. The comment surprised me. He shrugged. Maybe that's what healthy relationships feel like. I looked at him for a moment, then smiled. Maybe. What I didn't realize was that somewhere else, Daniel's life was continuing to unravel. A week later, Marissa called. You heard about Daniel? I frowned. No. Vanessa was arrested. My stomach tightened. What happened? Harassment. I straightened immediately. What? Apparently Daniel finally ended things for good. Marissa sighed. And she didn't take it well. Over the next several minutes, pieces of the story emerged. Repeated phone calls, showing up at his workplace, threatening messages, following him, dozens of incidents, enough for the police to get involved, enough for a restraining order, enough to make it obvious that the relationship had become dangerous long before it officially ended. When the call ended, I sat quietly for several minutes. Not because I missed Daniel, not because I wanted him back, because I couldn't stop thinking about how different everything might have been if he had simply walked away when he first realized something was wrong. Then again, maybe that lesson was part of the price he paid. March arrived, almost exactly 1 year after the morning he left. I had just finished work and was driving home when I noticed someone sitting on my front porch. At first, I assumed it was a delivery driver, or maybe one of Ethan's friends. Then I got closer, and my stomach dropped. Daniel. He was sitting on the steps, head lowered, shoulders hunched, looking thinner than ever, exhausted, defeated, terrified. I parked and climbed out of the car. His head lifted immediately. The relief on his face was instant. Claire, what are you doing here? He stood. I need to talk to you. My expression hardened. I blocked your number for a reason. I know. Then why are you here? His eyes darted toward the street. That was when I noticed it. Fear. Real fear. Not sadness. Not regret. Fear. What happened? His voice dropped. She found me again. I immediately understood who he meant. Vanessa. The restraining order? He nodded. She violated it. My stomach tightened. How? Following me? He swallowed. Showing up outside my apartment. Another pause. Threatening messages from fake accounts. The fear in his eyes was unmistakable. I don't feel safe anymore. For a brief moment, I saw not the man who betrayed me, not the man who left, just a frightened human being asking for help. Have you called the police? Yes. What did they say? They increased patrols. His voice shook. But that doesn't help when you're alone. I remained silent. Daniel looked away. Then, quietly said, You're the only person I trust. The words hit harder than I expected. Because a year earlier, he had traded that trust for excitement. Now, excitement was gone. And trust was the thing he wanted back. Unfortunately, trust doesn't work that way. Still, I couldn't ignore what I was seeing. The fear was genuine. The danger was real. And whatever Daniel had done to me, nobody deserved to live in terror. I exhaled, slowly. Okay. His eyes widened. Really? 1 week. Relief flooded his face. Thank you. I held up a hand. Ground rules. Anything. This is temporary. He nodded rapidly. Of course. You sleep in the guest room. Okay. This is not reconciliation. A shadow crossed his face, but he nodded. Okay. And you're continuing to work with the police? Absolutely. I studied him for another moment, then walked toward the front door. Come on. He followed behind me. As I reached the entrance, I felt a strange sense of inevitability, almost like the universe had been quietly arranging this moment for months. I unlocked the door, opened it slowly, and stepped inside. Claire? Ethan's voice drifted from the kitchen. We're almost out of pasta sauce. Did you remember to... He stopped when he saw us. Daniel froze. Completely froze. The color drained from his face. For several seconds, nobody spoke. Then Ethan set down the wooden spoon in his hand. Oh. Daniel started. You're seeing someone. I looked at him calmly. Yes. The word landed like a hammer. His eyes shifted between us. When? January. His expression crumbled. 2 months. Just over 2 months. Long enough to become serious? Long enough to become real. Ethan walked forward. Calm. Confident. Not threatened. Not insecure. Exactly the opposite of everything Daniel had become accustomed to. He extended his hand. Hi. I'm Ethan. Daniel stared at it. Then, reluctantly shook it. The contrast between the two men couldn't have been clearer. One had walked away. The other had stayed. One had chased excitement. The other built trust. One had broken my heart. The other protected it. Daniel's eyes moved around the house. The framed photos, the extra shoes near the door, the jacket hanging beside mine. Evidence everywhere. Proof that life had continued. Without him. You moved on. His voice barely emerged above a whisper. I met his Chaza. Yes. The silence that followed felt endless. Then Ethan looked at me. What's going on? I explained everything. The restraining order, the stalking, the fear, the request for help. Ethan listened carefully. When I finished, he nodded. Then we need to call the police again. Daniel blinked. What? We document everything. Ethan's voice remained calm. Every message. Every sighting. Every violation. Daniel stared at him, confused, almost suspicious. You'd help me. Ethan looked genuinely puzzled. Why wouldn't I, after everything I did to Claire? For a moment, Ethan was silent. Then he answered, because nobody deserves to be terrorized by an ex. The simplicity of the response filled the room. No grand speech. No judgment. No revenge. Just basic decency. Exactly the thing Daniel had once mistaken for weakness. Over the next 4 days, Daniel stayed in the guest room. The arrangement remained strictly temporary. Ethan and I helped him organize evidence. The police increased monitoring. An attorney assisted with additional protective measures. Gradually, Daniel found a new apartment in a secured building. Somewhere Vanessa couldn't easily access. On the morning he moved out, he stood beside his car one final time. The same driveway. The same house? A completely different ending. I see it now. I looked at him. What I threw away. The sadness in his voice was genuine. Not manipulative. Not strategic. Just honest. His eyes shifted toward the front window, where Ethan was inside carrying boxes. You're happy. I smiled. I am. A faint smile appeared on Daniel's face. The first genuine one I'd seen in a very long time. I'm sorry. I know. For leaving. I know. For thinking you'd wait. That one lingered. Then I nodded. I know. A long silence followed. Finally he asked, will you ever forgive me? I looked at him carefully, then answered truthfully, I already have. His eyes widened. But forgiveness isn't the same thing as going back. The smile faded slightly. I know. Some things break permanently. He nodded. I know. For the first time, I believed him. He stepped forward. Not for a hug. Not for reconciliation. Just to say goodbye. Take care of yourself. Claire. You too. He climbed into his car, started the engine, and drove away. This time, neither of us looked back. I walked inside. Ethan was folding blankets from the guest room. He glanced up. You okay? Yeah. He smiled. He really thought you'd take him back. Didn't he? I laughed softly. Yeah. And you never considered it. I crossed the room and wrapped my arms around him. Not for a second. His smile widened. Good. Why? He kissed my forehead. Because I'm not going anywhere. For a moment, I thought about everything that had happened during the past year. The betrayal, the heartbreak, the regret, The fear, the second chances, the lessons. Daniel had left, believing I was disposable, believing loyalty would always be waiting if he changed his mind. He was wrong, because when he finally came back looking for safety, looking for trust, looking for the life he abandoned, he opened the door and discovered something he never expected. Someone else had already chosen me. Someone else had stayed. Someone else understood the value of loyalty before it was gone.